Welcome to the second chapter of 2Chronicles. It begins with Solomon. It says, "And Solomon spoke to build the house to the name of the Lord." The impetus to build the house came from his father David, who had a desire to build the house. This is in end of 2 Samuel. But Solomon had been a man of blood. He had killed a lot of people at wars, and God didn't want him to be the one building it, even though he had the desire. And he told David that it would be Solomon who actually built it. So David prepared most of this, laid the plans, and Solomon did the building. So this was before, like I mentioned, in the end of 2 Samuel. During this time, as we mentioned, that when Solomon became king, the first noted thing that he did was put his brother to death, Adonijah, who claimed the throne while David was still alive. But David had the priests and the military support Solomon as king and crowned him. And Adonijah and his friends were all celebrating in this room. They heard this noise outside, and somebody came in and said that Solomon had been declared the king. Adonijah fled, ran to the temple, put his hands, I believe, on the altar and the horns, and so he wouldn't be killed, and he was spared as long as he didn't do anything to be king in the future. But he came later and asked Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, if she would help to get Solomon's a young girl that they used to warm up Solomon in his old age. Her name escapes me right now, but so when Solomon heard about that, then he had Adonijah's brother killed, and then after that he put to death many of the people that David had left instructions to Solomon to get rid of. Joab, his general, and other people. It's all there in the at the end of 2 Samuel, 1 Kings. So now Solomon spoke to build the house to the name of the Lord, and a house for his kingdom. Now, you would probably think, well, this is the same thing. The house of the Lord would be for the kingdom, but not necessarily. Solomon also was the house of the forest of Lebanon. It took 13 years to build. That's mentioned all in 1 Kings 7th chapter. So all this building is interesting because it shows to me that there's God's economy. There's the economy of the world, economy of countries, but there's God's economy. The things that people have done for God, building over the thousands of years, takes a lot of effort from a lot of different people. There are mainly craftspeople, women making the veils and the curtains and embroideries and the things that women are very good at, and men who are carpenters and workers in metal to do the things that they're good at, and they all got paid money. Then there were the sacrifices, and all the people that raised the animals for the sacrifices, they all got money. The clergy at the time, the Levites, they received remuneration. And the list really goes on and on. The military, to protect the clergy and so forth, they all received money. And then as we went down to the time, especially in Europe, when we have all the large cathedrals being built, some of them took like 100 years and employed many, many people. And the economy without that would have been harmed. So the building is really a wonderful thing for the economy of a nation, the United States. all the different churches. If you look in the United States and the cathedrals that have been built, and the amount of effort and money that people getting paid and jobs that relate into that. With me, it's printing. The printers print Bibles, and it's a multi-million-dollar I don't know what you would call it, not an economy, but it's a multi-million-dollar industry, and for printing Bibles and religious information of all sorts. So all these people that are working at printing and binding, and then all the sales people that sold all these books and make money. So the economy of God is a very powerful thing, and a lot of people don't really realize that if they wanted to get rid of Christians, they might be hurting economically, and I believe that's what happened to the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union became an atheistic country, nothing to do with God. Tried to get rid of all the churches and in the synagogues and the mosques in the Soviet Union, and so for, I don't know, was it 60 or 70 years that it nourished, but they spent all their money on armament, on rockets and bombs and so forth, and the people didn't have anything. Finally, the country fell apart without a shot being heard, just by the economy falling apart. And I believe that that's a plan of God. God uses the economy of the world. Econ is a house. We get the word right here, econ. Economy comes from that word. And so this economy of God was being used here in Israel, in the house for the kingdom. And Solomon brought together 70,000 men, load carriers, and 80,000 men quarrying in the mountain. So now all these people were working, building the temple and the things for it, and the supervisors over them, 3,600. A lot of people, a lot of workers. Most of the workers were non-Jews. Most of the Jews didn't do the work. They were not. They basically used, as we see at the end of this chapter, immigrant labor. And Solomon sent to Hiram, in Greek, a king of Tyre, saying, as you did with David my father, and sent to him Kedrus, we have a transliteration into cedars, to build for himself a house to dwell in it, then behold, I his son am building a house to the name of the Lord my God, to sanctify it to him, to burn before him incense of aromatics, and for a place setting to be continually before him. Before we get too far advanced, so David built a lot of things, and he used the timbers from Lebanon to build the things that he had. Now, Tyre, where is Tyre? Let's go to a map. I have a map here. Hopefully I'll be able to find it. There it is up here. And you'll see that this is Lebanon here. Well, I can't see it because I've got my laptop in front, but now I can see better. Now you can't see me. Well, there's Tyre. And then Joppa at the time, that's what his name was, about 90 miles south of Tyre, right across from Jerusalem. So it gives you an idea. And go back, the other one. So Solomon sent to Hiram, king of Tyre. Tyre was a city that was on an island in the Mediterranean, in Phoenicia, and it was a powerful city-state. It had harbors on both the north and the south side, and the timbers were all from the forests that were in Lebanon, and they cut them down. They brought them into the inner city that was not on the island, and then this inner city brought the wood out to Tyre where the boats were, And these boats went all over the Mediterranean. They were the first peoples to travel the Mediterranean in boats. And eventually they set up these colonies throughout the Mediterranean. The major one was Carthage. It's even believed that they went beyond the Pillar of Hercules, the Rock of Gibraltar, into the Atlantic Ocean to a city in Spain, Cabriz, something like that. So this Hiram was an important king in that whole area of Tyre. Tyre was probably the most powerful cities on the Mediterranean outside of Egypt and Greece. Greece came actually later. This was about 1,000 years before Christ. About the time when Greece was starting to become strong. And Solomon sent and he said, as you did with David my father, and sent to him the cedars and so forth, we went through all that. I his son am building a house in the name of the Lord my God, to sanctify it to him, to burn before him incense of aromatics. So he had an altar of incense that was made, and that was in Exodus 30, and for a place setting to be continually before him. He's referring here to the table of the bread loaves. That was in Exodus 25:23, where that was made, and to offer whole burnt offerings continually in the morning and the evening. And this whole burnt offering was done on an altar, altar of the whole burnt offerings in Exodus 38. Continually in the morning and the evening, and on the Savatis, there's a transliteration into English. Up here we have aromaton, aromatics, another transliteration. And on or in the new moons and in the holidays. It's interesting, the prepositions, how we would say something happened on the new moon, but it really didn't happen on it. It wasn't on top. It was in the day, during the day. So in, I have on because we use the word on the new moons, but I could have put in the new moons, during the new moons. So the prepositions are all not set in stone, always mean the same thing every single time. Preposition is a word that determines more or less a direction, something on top, below, on the side, inside, outside, or around. It has to do with a direction. Those are prepositions. In, out, the ones I mentioned. Up, down, prepositions. And into the eon, this is for Israel. And the house which I built is to be great. For great is the Lord our God beyond all the gods. And there's a small g, who weren't really gods, but gods to people. And who is strong to build to him a house? Actually, this is gives us a little bit of an idea of Solomon's thought process, how later he did open up the city of Jerusalem to altars to all sorts of gods because of his different wives, the wives that were from different areas and had different gods. So he did recognize that there were other gods, and now how he dealt with them, how great they were, if they were actually a god, it doesn't say. But it kind of shows there that, to me, the beginning of a milking down. Great is the Lord our God beyond any, I wouldn't say other gods, because that's giving them more credit than due. But Solomon did use that. And who is strong to build to him a house? For the Uranos, the heaven, and the heaven of the heaven does not bear him. Well, for sure, he created everything. So there's nothing we can do for God. We can do things that he wants our love. He apparently has allowed us life. He's giving us a soul that we can communicate with him in a certain level, and our emotions can fit to what he wants us to do, and that's to be humble and to love him. And he says, but who am I building to him a house, except to burn incense in front of him? Well, I can do that. We can pray. The incense was always a figure for prayer in a lot of places, especially in the book of revelation. So we pray, burn incense. The Roman Catholics, they burn incense. I think that has, I'm not a Catholic, I've never been one, so I'm really not an expert, but the incense, I don't know if the priest swings the censer in the Greek Orthodox. I guess that's a way of the prayers of the saints that were there were going up to God. And he continues, and now, apostolon, we have the apostle, send, one sent, the apostle. Here it's the verb, send to me a wise man. Andra, sophon, Sophia, wisdom, and andra, and android has to do with man. And one knowing how to prepare in golden and silver, Crisio and in Argyrio, Argentina, that word comes from silver country. Halco, the Chalcolithic age, the brass age, bronze age, and in iron, and in purple, and in scarlet, and in blue. A hyacinth, iakintho, is a Greek word. It means blue, hyacinth. This comes from that. And having knowledge to carved works, with the wise ones with me in Judah and in Jerusalem, whom David my father prepared. So David also prepared the people, got them ready to build this temple in Jerusalem. And so send me somebody, Solomon says, that can do these things. All these things are very interesting. It's kind of goes along with Revelations 18:12, where the same types of things are mentioned in the scarlet, the blue, and everything in Revelation 18:12. And send to me xyla kedrina, timbers of kedrina, cedar. Xyla, we have xylophone, which is a musical instrument that has wooden, they're not a rod, but they're little rectangular pieces of wood, and they hit it with a mallet, and it has a tone to it. It's called xylophone. Xyla has to do with wood, and timbers of cedars and of junipers and of pines from out of Lebanon. Over the centuries, extensive deforestation has occurred, and there's only a small remnant of the original forests surviving. So it's kind of sad because Lebanon doesn't have what it used to have. But on the side of the Lebanese airplanes, they have a cedar tree, and I believe it's on their flag also. So Lebanon is known for the cedar. For I know that your bondmen know how to fell xyla from out of Lebanon. And behold, my servants shall go with your servants to prepare for me xyla in plethora, in multitude. For the house which I build is megas, great and glorious. And behold, to the ones working in the felling timbers, I have given grain for foods, ceton, grain. We have a parasite, comes from that, something that's alongside of the grain. As gifts to your servants of cores of wheat. And a core is 6.25 bushels. And 20,000 would be 125,000 bushels of wheat. And you can figure out how much that is. And barley cores 20,000, the same amount. Wine measures 20,000, and olive oil measures 20,000. Now, there's a liquid and a dry measure there. I didn't write down the liquid measure, but I'm not sure. And Hiram, king of Tyre, spoke by writing. Graphi, a graph, is the derivative. And he sent apostole, there's the apostle, apostolo. He sent to Solomon, saying, in the Lord loving his people, agapise, the agape, his people, he put you over them for Basileia, king. And Hiram said, evlogitos, and eulogy is the derivative, blessed be the Lord Theos of Israel, who made the Uranon and the Gene. Uranon, we have the planet Uranus, means heaven, and geology, study of the earth, who gave to David gave to King David a wise son, and knowing understanding and higher knowledge, who shall build a house to the Lord, and for a house for his kingdom, and that's his own house. And now I have sent to you a man wise and knowing understanding. Hiram, my servant, same name but a different person. This reminds us of Bezaleel, who was the man who built the tabernacle. Mentions him in Exodus 31:4. And it says, and I filled him a divine spirit of wisdom and understanding and higher knowledge to consider in every work. So in Exodus, this Bezaleel, and here now for the temple, we have Hiram, the servant. He was the son, Ginekos, from the daughters of Dan, Thigateron. Daughter, Thiga, it's almost a transliteration. So he was Jewish. It's from Dan. His father is a Tyrian man. So he was of Tyre. Tyre, again, that city north. Lebanon was visited by both Paul and Jesus. And knowing how to prepare in gold and in silver, just like Bezaleel, and in brass, and in iron, and in stones and woods, and to weave in purple, and in blue, and in linen, and in scarlet, and to carve carvings, and to consider every device in whichever you should give to him with your wise ones, and the wise ones of my master David, your father. I underline these because you can add them to your English derivatives book. Glyphine, we have a glyph, a carving. So this man was able to do all these things. In 1 Kings 7:13 to 14, it expands that this Hiram was mainly a worker. It says, and King Solomon sent and took Hiram from out of Tyre, a son of a widow woman, and he was from the tribe of Naphtali. His father was a Tyrian man. We went through all that. And to do the works in brass. And so it mentions he made the columns. He made the temple, the brass columns, the capitals that go on top, the lattice work in between, the bronze sea that the priests bathed in, the oxen that held up the sea, the bases, all of bronze, the lion that was alongside of the, I believe it was I think it was alongside the throne, oxen, the cherubim, made out of bronze, the wheels, axles, bathing tubs, small pillars, pots, kettles, tongs, and bowls. All these things that Hiram knew how to work with brass, and they were all forged, which they made molds in the ground and poured hot bronze into them, and they came out and cleaned them up, and they had the bronze masterpieces that they made. Beautiful things. And now the grain and the barley and the olive oil, eleon, and the enon, vino, wine, which my master spoke, let him send it to his servants. Let him send it to us. And we will fell trees from out of Lebanon. That was Hiram. And we will fell trees from out of Lebanon according to all your need, and we will bring them by a barge upon the sea. So they cut down these trees, brought them into the island city of Tyre, put them on ships, and 90 miles south they were at Joppa. And you shall bring them up unto Jerusalem. Jerusalem wasn't that far from Joppa. I think Peter was in Joppa. He went there, and he was living by the sea with a tanner, I believe, Simon the tanner. And Solomon gathered all the men of the foreigners in the land of Israel. Today it's called Jaffa, not Joppa, but Jaffa. And Solomon gathered all the men of the foreigners in the land of Israel after the count which David his father counted them. Arithmon, we have arithmetic, comes from that. So David got these people together and who they were going to be working, and were found 150,000 and 3,600. So basically, see, all of these people that they got to work were all immigrants. And it sort of reminds me of today. I look at the world, and immigration is going out worldwide, especially in Europe and the Middle East, and the United States, Canada, Mexico, from South America and the United States. And the people that generally, when they go into the other country, become at the bottom of the pecking list. And they are the ones that do the hard work. In the United States, a lot of the Mexicans come across and do the manual labor. But eventually, they do well, and they work themselves into the economy and own things and become wealthy and so forth. And it seems to work out, but it takes quite a while. But the ones that are the immigrants are the ones that do the hard work, and it's happened here 1,000 years BC. So if you're an immigrant and you're reading the Bible and you're complaining because you're only getting minimum wage and I'll just finish it. So if you are, then know that God, this is the way it's been. And he made from out of them 70,000 load carriers and 80,000 quarriers in the mountain and 3,600 foremen over the people. So then we continue in chapter 3 with the house on Mount Moriah. In chapter 3, I hope you'll join us. God bless.